such sights to show you.
Right. Do you want to intro us, or?
Do you want to do it? Because I think I'm going to be the one editing this, so I might just keep all this in for argument's sake.
Yeah, I can do the intro. Shall we go? Alright everyone, welcome to brand original Daymares podcast. I'm Aksel Spencer and I'm here with a very, very good friend of mine.
Oh, you wanted me there?
Oh yeah, I think you can introduce yourself
Yeah.
here.
My name's Adam Aksel.
Yeah, smooth, professional already we are.
We've been doing this for years.
Yeah. I guess a bit of background to start us off to what's happening here is we just decided we want to have a platform to talk about horror movies.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
we're sick of speaking to ourselves about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like watching great horror movies and be like, oh, wish I could talk to someone about this movie. And yeah, we're gonna make this semi-regular, and we have lots of ideas already what to talk about. But this time, on this occasion, we're gonna talk about probably the best horror movie that came out last year.
Do you think it's the best?
I think so.
I don't want to get into it already, but
I think it's the best I saw. I can't really think of anyone that was above it. There are certainly good horror movies that came out last year. Other ones, I think Lighthouse came out last year, didn't it? Or was it 2019?
Oh, that's a good one. I think no, it was last year because it was the last film I saw before the world went to shit.
Hmm. Oh yeah.
Which is quite apt, really, when you think about it.
Yeah. It has that end of the world feelings, doesn't it? But yeah, like what we're talking about, it's not Lighthouse. We're talking about Brandon Cronenberg's The Possessor.
Right. This is the first thing I want to talk about. What is the title of the film? Because you've called it The Possessor.
All right. Oh, the hard-hitting questions already. Yeah, it's like on a poster. It just says Possessor, but I think I read in places that it's called The Possessor.
Right. I didn't notice this until today when I was looking at the box. Have you got the film box or the case near you?
Yeah, just a moment. I'm going to make some very professional noises as I leave from my recording position.
Because what you'll realise is that there's a title for it. Go on.
Yeah. We got a winner. It says on my Blu-ray, a film by Brandon Cronenberg, Possessor, Uncut.
There we go. I didn't know it was called Possessor Uncut. I always thought it was just called Possessor. Yeah,
I think it's probably because there was a limited version in American cinemas where they call... I just checked this, just like looking up some information before we start recording. They got 2 minutes worth of violence and sex from the movie. So I guess this is kind of like their way of being, nothing's been cut. This is the original.
Ah, right, okay.
Yeah, because in Canada it was released uncut, I believe.
Right, okay. That makes a little bit more sense then. Because I was looking at the box going, where's that uncut? I've not seen that. That really threw me off guard.
But yeah, do you want to give a little bit of a story plot kind of introduction about Possessor?
Yeah, so what it's about, it's a corporate assassin who takes over the minds, the bodies, you want to say, of another person so they can assassinate a high-value target. For example, in this film, from the clip we'll play in a moment, the target is played by Sean Bean, and he is the owner of a company who you can only describe as like Amazon-esque. Is that the best way to describe it?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so we'll play the clip now, and then we'll get going from there.
Consider the face of Colin Tate. Father deceased, mother estranged, no siblings. Deals cocaine for a few years, then falls in love and becomes engaged to one of his rich clients, Ava Parse. She's the daughter of John Parse, CEO of Zuthru. Zuthru? Data mining. Largest operation outside the U.S. Head office is local. But our deal is with Reed Parse, John's stepson. And what's the narrative? Well, imagine Colin Tate as the unstable lover who feels diminished by his new family. Ava has all the power in the relationship. It's emasculating. He starts using more, behavior becoming more and more erratic. Ultimately, he breaks, killing John, kills Ava, kills himself. With Ava out of the picture, Reed inherits everything. Becomes CEO, cry for the cameras, clean tragedy, no one answered questions. Pay is significant. Money and shares. But the real target, according to corporate, is Zuthru itself. Because once we own Reed, we own the company. Right. So when do I stop?
Yeah, so it's very... Where do we start? It's a very interesting film, to say the least. And yeah, like I said, I'd say it's my favorite horror film, or probably even favorite film that came out last year. Of course, I only saw it in February this year when it came out on Blu-ray.
Yeah. As I said, there might be similar for me. I think it got on over here. I think it came on Amazon streaming first. Excuse me. I think that's how I watched it. I rented it on there, and I think it was like a month later it came out on Blu-ray.
All right, yeah.
So for me, this is like it's a 2021 film for me. This.
Yeah, and it's certainly a film I recommend anyone who's listening to our lovely voices to watch first. If you kind of like want to experience it as a whole, because it's one of those films I'm super glad I didn't watch a trailer for. At least not entirely. No, I have this very strong habit that I watch promotional materials until the point I'm sold, which in many cases is before even seeing the trailer. And I do that just because I don't want to be spoiled. Like the trailers for Possessor, I think, are some of the best I've seen. They don't spoil the story.
Oh no.
Or anything, but in horror, I feel the imagery is so important, like the vision of something scary happening, for example, can be exposed in a trailer, and I don't want that. I want to see it.
Yeah, no, I get that. I think like the horror that comes with this one is more in like, well, for me, it's more in the editing. That's where most of the horror comes from. Like when was it? Because I'm the opposite. I found it out through a trailer.
All right.
That was when I first heard of it. I was like, this looks weird. It looks cool. When's it out? Oh, it's out in November. And then lo and behold, the UK went into a lockdown in November. so we couldn't watch it.
Yeah. I mean, I can't even remember where I kind of found out about it. I think probably from Twitter. There were like some accounts I follow that share news about horror films. And of course, you know, me being a massive horror fan, it's very unlikely that it's going to go past me when some of the most influential horror directors of all time releases a new movie, which is only his second movie, and is very much body horror.
Oh yeah, I mean, like, I don't think we're going to get away without mentioning that he's David Cronenberg's son. And
yeah,
I think he wears that title. Well, he wears that surname on his sleeve in this one. Have you seen his other film, Antiviral?
No, I haven't.
It's all right. It's not incredible, but in this one, you can definitely tell like he's lent into his name.
Yeah.
A lot more. I mean, in only that sense, in body horror. In every other sense, like he's got his own voice. I just think in this one, he's just taken his dad's elements and then made it his own in some way.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel in certain ways, Brandon surpasses David's work. I mean, David Cronenberg is easily one of the most influential directors in horror, just because there really wouldn't be body horror as we know it without him. But there is a serious lack of certain elements, especially in his earlier films. Like, I watched Scanners, and what was the one with the was it Rapids, with the people who were kind of like crazy with this parasite that made their sex drive go through the roof?
That's not Videodrome. That's definitely not Videodrome.
Yeah, I think it was Rabbits, if I remember correctly.
I'm gonna Google it quickly because I know in David Cronenberg's heyday was pretty much the 80s. You had The Fly, you had Videodrome, and you had Scanners. Let me double check now. David Cronenberg. But yeah, I mean, I like David Cronenberg's films, but I definitely get what you're saying. Like, there's a lot in there where you can pick at it essentially.
Yeah, you can definitely see it has a lot of the issues horror movies around that time had, where there wasn't really character development. It was much more about the atmosphere and kind of the theme, sociological theme going on, which I think David is really brilliant at. That's his shine, making that kind of sociological commentary or whatever subject he decides to tackle. And Brandon definitely has the same knack for that kind of approach. And the way they both do body horror is very different. You know, David was very much into the grotesque metamorphosis, and Brandon is much more psychological, philosophical.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably one of my biggest complaints with Possessor. For as much as I like it, I think a lot of the body horror stuff at times goes a little over the top.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Should we just go straight into the ending now? I feel like there's a lot of times where he just overdoes it with the amount of blood.
Yeah, I think that's could be very much a byproduct of the expectation set to him by association to his father.
Oh yeah, definitely, and that's what I was saying before. Where he very much wears his name on his sleeve. For me, it's which scene was it now? Where Sean Bean gets munched.
Yeah.
to put it in a roundabout way.
I love that. That sounds such a nicely put English way to say it.
Oh yeah, I mean he gets brutally assaulted.
I think there are maybe 3 shockingly violent moments in the film.
And that entire sequence for me is straight away, the moment it happens, you go, oh, okay, I see where this is going. Yeah. And then it just goes, right, okay, we're going to take it to another level, then we're going to take it to another level, and then we're going to take it to the next level, and you're like, right, okay. But for me, there are moments in there where I like what's going on. Well, no, I like's the wrong word, because that makes me sound like a sadist, but...
you are, though. Don't hide it.
I see what's going on, but there are just times where I think he could have shown less, and it would have been just as effective, or even more effective.
Yeah, I feel they are the violence we see in the movie isn't. I wouldn't say it's necessary. It just adds to the kind of shock.
Oh yeah.
Of experiencing. It's very kind of I wouldn't necessarily call it realistic violence. It certainly has the heightened Hollywood violence, but it's not like what we used to from the name Cronenberg, where it's very, heads exploding and
stylized.
Flies broken into from human bodies. it's very different. And that moment with the Sean Bean, I think it's actually pretty much on the midway point of the movie. It's like one of those movie scenes where I couldn't stay on my seat. I was just jumping like, oh my god,
Yeah.
what is going on?
Like for me, that moment is where the film goes from being good. Like, everything up until that point is interesting and it's keeping you engaged, and then that moment and everything afterwards is where like the film really shines.
Oh, absolutely. That's the point where it becomes the whole theme of it, which is the identity dysmorphia.
Yeah.
Of battling against what's inside you, which isn't you.
Yeah, and I think that's like easily highlighted in the sex scene. Yeah. Like, this is going to sound weird, but like, for some reason I'm fascinated by sex scenes. Not in like a pervy way or anything like that. Just in like, there are times when you're watching a sex scene in the film and you can quite easily question why it's been put in there, and there are times where it just feels like it's not necessary at all.
Yeah.
Whereas with this one, it's pretty much like, it sums up the film in a nutshell. In that 2-minute sequence, like, it goes, this is the film.
Yeah, it's probably one of the most unsettling sex scenes I've seen. Of course, like, discounting all the very unnecessary rape scenes I've seen in far too many films. But, like, having the whole idea that, to anyone who hasn't seen the film, there's a point where this man who is the subject of, or kind of like gateway to an assassination, and the assassin is inside him at that point. So the man is having sex with his fiancée, but actually it's the assassin. So, of course, the fiancée doesn't know it. I'm explaining this really badly.
It's a difficult thing to explain, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of those things you have to see, but yeah, she's having sex with the assassin in the body of her fiancé. And there's like this projected, like, massive eye on the wall, which is the assassin's eye, and it's looking upon them very symbolically, and it's just so unsettling, the idea that you're doing such an intimate act with someone you're supposed to know, but it's not them.
Yeah, and it's like, which is the bit where the scene where she's spying on them. Like, that to me is just pure. That entire moment I love.
Oh yeah,
it's just so. What's the word for it? It's like
voyeuristic.
No,
I
wasn't.
Something completely different.
Like, it's definitely that, but at the same time, like, it just goes. It just takes it to another level to me, because that's the moment where you kind of realise that, I can't remember the actor's name, but the guy who plays Reed, I think his name was on there.
Reed,
is that his name?
Colin is the main male character.
Oh, excuse me, Colin.
Christopher Abbott plays Colin in this movie.
Excuse me. So when Tuss is watching Colin, and then she starts like trying to mimic his voice.
Oh yeah.
That to me is where you kind of understand where the film's going. Like, I was going to say as well, like, I think probably going into this, I think it's fair. Like, should we just assume that people have watched it? Because if they haven't, like, I don't know why they're listening to this.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it could be regarding someone could like be interested in whatever they should watch it, and we'll go on as we will. People will go along if they will.
Yeah.
But yeah, as you were saying.
Yeah, just that moment in general, like, it to me, it has one of the best shots in it, where it ends on the close-up of Tuss. Like that, just the way it goes from, it transitions from her spying on the two to trying to mimic them and to having like this crisis moment. To me, it's one of those moments in the films where you kind of go, oh, okay, so the Christopher Abbott is essentially having to play a character who is within a character.
Oh yeah.
And to me, like that's one of the things, like in the entire film that I love so much is the acting from. Oh, I can't remember the woman's name who plays Toss. Christopher Abbott.
Andrea Riseborough.
Yeah, so Andrea Riseborough, Christopher Abbott, and Jennifer Jason Leigh. Those three are perfect in this film.
Absolutely. I think the overall the cast is brilliant, but especially the acting chops it took from Christopher Abbott and Andrea Riseborough, it's just phenomenal. I have no idea how they pulled it through, but they amazing.
Yeah, definitely. Because it's that moment where she finally takes over his body, and she stands up and just sort of walks around, goes into the bathroom. That to me is when you just go, oh, okay, this is going to go to some weird places.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's of course, like, the very obligatory when you do body swap, you have body swap movies. Especially if it's like man and woman, woman to man, where, first, you have to just check oh, what? Yeah, what do I have under here?
Like, oh yeah, I definitely have a penis now.
Yeah. And going back to the whole kind of like scene where she's spying on them, where she's kind of rehearsing the lines, it's like pretty much the whole motive in a film where she goes to meet her family and she has to kind of rehearse her words, what she's going to say to them, because, it's made quite clear whenever she comes back from those assassination attempts, she takes a part of the person she's been in with her, and she really needs. They have these tests to make sure she hasn't taken too much, so she remembers who she is, but it's definitely does her damage on her social behavior, which is really, unsettling. Yeah.
So, did you notice? So, obviously, the start of the film, she's in someone else's body, going on to do like another assassination job, and afterwards, like, sounds of it, whenever she does it, like she comes out of the job, she has this like memory test. So at the start of it, did you notice this between this bit and the ending of the film? So when she's going through like the items, she goes, "Oh yes, this tobacco pipe was my granddad. Before I was born, my dad gave it to me." Then she goes into the butterfly, and then at the start of the film, she goes, I can't remember exactly what she says, but she says, "I killed it and mounted it one time in the summer. I felt guilty about it. I still feel guilty about it now." And then at the end of the film, she goes, "Yep, this tobacco pipe is my granddad's. He died before I was born. My dad gave it to me." Then she goes back to the butterfly, and then she just goes, "Oh yeah, this is mine. I killed it and mounted it one time in the summer." And she doesn't mention how guilty she felt about it at all.
Yeah, that was, at that moment I was like, oh shit. It's just definitely that kind of moment she's like lost that part of her.
Yeah, and the best bit about that is just how, like, I love Jennifer Jason Leigh when she just goes, "Very good." Like, to me, at that point she goes, oh, she knows what's going on, and she's okay with destroying this person just so she can bolster her career.
Yeah, and I think the whole character of Jennifer Jason Leigh is very simple, very beautifully structured in a way. We know from the beginning when we meet her what her goal is, which is to kind of have Taz abandon her family to work as an assassin without any emotional burden. And when she gets what she wanted, that's kind of the character arc I didn't want to like have to kind of be kind of the rewarding character arc of the movie. It was just like the coldest person you could have.
Oh yeah, like she's great at giving those kind of performances where it's just like, I'm a dickhead.
Oh yeah,
this is going to be utterly brutal. Like, and that's like for me, that's the entire film, is how cold and borderline nihilistic it is.
Yeah.
And that to me really comes across in the acting.
Yeah, it's very, like, the world it depicts
Say that again.
is very cynical. Pardon?
Say that again, sorry.
Yeah, like the world the movie depicts is very kind of cynical. The people are not. I don't think there's any purely good people in the movie. They all have their kind of drawbacks, and that they kind of cherish in certain ways. I mean, of course, there's the family of Taz, which are like not that I can think of anything bad about them, and they have like such a tragic end.
Yeah, I mean, the 10-year-old kid doesn't get much cut in the way of character development, does he?
Yeah, no.
But like, I get what you mean. Like, everyone in the film is just like a bit of a dickhead. One thing that irritates me and makes me laugh at the same time: everyone in the film vapes.
Oh yeah. I guess that was like, of course, the movie takes place in alternate universe, in alternate 2008, and it does this beautiful thing that a few horror movies have been doing recent years, like It Follows did, where it kind of combines old technology with new technology, making this very weird, timeless world. So I think Brandon Cronenberg has said in interviews, like, his idea of that universe, of that reality, was that in 2008 everyone was vaping. So that's
Is it set in 2008?
Yeah, I think it was 2008, like alternate 2008, I think he said.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's interesting because, of course, it is futuristic, but it also has these old cars in the world, and all the technology, for example, when she's been hooked in for the brain transplant system, is like all these old buttons and levers. So yeah, it combines that technology in a way that isn't like realistic to our time.
Never knew if it was set in 2008. I wouldn't have guessed. Like, from looking at the film, going, oh yeah, this is definitely 2008.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can tell from the movie itself what year it is in. I think the more emphasis on it's not like it's an alternate reality. It's not our world. Of course, if it were, I'd be very concerned where these brain transplanting assassins are.
I mean, that scene where you see like the brain transplant, not the brain transplant,
not
like the where he's in the car and they're doing that, putting that implant in his head. That to me is one of those scenes where it's just like I wanted to throw up, because he doesn't shy away from showing you the drill going into someone's skull.
Yeah. And I have to say, like, the effects in that sequence are absolutely wonderful. Like, the bodies melting from Taz into Colin, it's just amazing.
You said you watched some special features, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
Yes, I've not had time to watch those. So, you said, did he go into that, the special features? Like,
yeah,
I mean, they made that?
Yeah. There's this one of the special features, I think it was about the practical effects, and they do talk about that sequence in particular. I mean, of course, Cronenberg, they're gonna have to be practical effects. There's like some CGI, but most of the stuff in the movie are practical, and it's amazing.
Yeah, definitely. Like, that, I don't know what I'll go into now. Screw it, I am. The scene where things start to go wrong, and that guy comes over to try and fix it and put her back into position. And you see, as he's, I don't know what it is, that machine that kind of like puts it back in the same frequency.
Yeah.
And through like the editing, you see like Colin come back in, walk up to Taz.
Yeah.
Go up to choke her and then like squeeze her face and puts her face on her mouth. That to me is one of the most horrific scenes I've seen in a film.
It's so unsettling.
Yeah. Just how it goes back from like the moment that really like made my skin crawl was when he's going up to the kid and sniffing the kid with that mask on.
Yeah, and it's like when in that sequence he's having sex with Taz's husband with the mask on, like Taz's face. That was just, oh my god!
I wonder how awkward it must have been on set for that.
I wonder how awkward it would have been if that guy was into it. Like, can I take this mask home?
I'm not going to kink shame. It's not what I'm into, but...
Was it in that scene that they had the very explicitly erect penis on the screen? Or was it before?
So it's the... Oh, which bit is it? So when he goes over to work for the company, to do the shift, and he's got like that VR headset on, and he's spying through people's webcams to see what's what. There's a scene in there which is there's two people having sex based in Brighton in the UK.
Yeah, no, not that. There's a scene. I don't know. Did you miss this or something? But
and there's another one when the what we were talking about before, where it's like the intercutting between Colin having sex. Is that what
there was a scene where Taz is having sex with, I think it was Taz having sex with her husband, and the camera pans down from Taz, her face, down to her body, and we see that she has a fully erect penis.
Yeah.
And I actually just read some stuff about it.
You paused it.
What? I read some stuff about it, and apparently it's even supposed to be just like the character of Taz. It's not even like Colin symbolism, like he's inside her body, but that's actually just Taz. And that's...
So is the implication that she's trans?
Yeah, that's what I got from it, which is very interesting, because I can't think of any horror movies I've seen with a transgender character that was depicted in, like, Taz isn't a good character, but she's depicted quite well, as she's a full character with a full arc and everything, unlike like what people of minorities usually get.
Yeah.
In horror movies, especially. Like, I know Sleepaway Camp got a lot of flack for the depiction of that sort of subjects back in the day. That was 83, maybe?
I mean, to be fair, I haven't watched that. But that's...
Oh, really?
No. That's... To me, because that scene felt like, to me, it was like a melding of two bodies.
Yeah, because that's what I thought at first, but apparently it was just the idea that Taz's character is transgender, and apparently that bit was originally kind of like edited out by Brandon, because he thought no actress would feel comfortable in depicting the character, like doing the scene, not uncomfortable with portraying a character who's transgender, but like doing the scene when there's like the whole very erected penis. But apparently when Andrea Riseborough got the role and Brandon discussed this with her, she was like all for it. And yeah, she's just done such amazing work with the character anyway. Like, I'm so glad they cast her.
Oh
not just for
she plays it with like the right level of vulnerability. Like,
absolutely,
you can tell that she's not okay. The moment when she goes, "Yes, I am ready to do the job," you can tell she's not ready, and she shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah,
but there's that bit where you're looking at it going, you don't want to do it. There's a part of you that kind of goes, "Yeah, but go on then, just go and do it."
Yeah, And it's like one of my favorite things in horror movies is when we have problematic main characters, because I feel that's what horror is really at its core about, at its best. When there's like, you can do whatever you like, but you're eventually gonna pay for the mistakes you've made.
Yeah.
Whether it's like death or mutilation, you can't escape your past mistakes.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what happens in this film as well.
That's interesting. I know. I think it's very, very obvious that the film's about gender identity and gender dysmorphia and all. Gender dysphoria, is that what it's pronounced? But I never knew that she was intended to be, or he was intended to be, a trans character. I never knew that.
Yeah, I can't think of any other scenes where we kind of like brought up into our view. But then again, this movie, it doesn't hold your hand at all.
Oh no,
in no ways. It's like, if you hate movies with kind of those explicit exposition dumps, this doesn't have any of that. It's just, it doesn't tell you what's going on. I was quite lost the first time I watched this, being very disoriented by some scenes. It's just being kind of like, what is even going on here?
Which scenes?
I think when they abduct Colin when he's in a car, I was very confused what's going on. I was like, did they kill him? And
okay.
Then they kind of like brought his body back to life and Tass inside him, and like the whole start sequence where that girl kills the rich guy with the knife. I was like, what is going on here? And of course, like, because I hadn't watched any trailers, I didn't know what this movie was about at all. So yeah, I was very clueless. Second time I watched it, I was like, oh, it all makes sense now.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I watched it today for this, and there were bits and pieces that I was picking up on that I hadn't watched before. Like the whole thing with the ending and the butterfly, I only noticed that today. I'm rewatching that going, oh, okay. Well, like, there were snippets like in the editing that I wasn't noticing before.
Yeah.
Just because there were moments in the editing and just where it doesn't leave room for much. It just goes, here's one frame on this one particular moment that we're going to call back to right at the end of the film.
Yeah, I mean, I think Possessor is a film that like perfectly opens up as you watch it. Like, you go in, you're kind of like clueless, you have no idea what's going on, but by the end you have the full picture. You know why the things that you didn't realize at the start, you realize why they happened, and you're kind of like in on it.
Yeah,
I mean,
to be honest, if I gave this to someone and said, watch this, it's a great horror film, and then they turned to me however many days later and said, I've watched it and I couldn't get on board with it, I wouldn't blame them.
Yeah.
Like it. Yes,
I mean,
it doesn't hold your hand, but at the same time, it doesn't leave much for you to grab onto either, I think.
I mean, there's like, I completely see this isn't a movie for the casual audience.
No.
And there's very good proof of this. Have you seen what rating it has on IMDb?
No, but I'd imagine for a type of film like this, it's probably hovering around the 6.
6.5.
There we go. Called it.
Yeah, it's like, I don't really trust, like, nobody should trust those ratings. It's kind of misleading because in the end they're all just opinions. But this movie for me is like, when I did like those short reviews I do on Twitter.
Yeah,
this is the only horror film so far I haven't rated, because I was just so out of it after seeing the movie. I was like, I don't know how to react to this. It's such
it's a trip, isn't it?
Absolutely, it's such a different horror film, such a different film altogether. And I was like, it's like 9 or 10, but I'm not sure. But like, after watching a second time after spending some time with it, it's definitely a 10.
Oh, I'd disagree. I'd say it's an 8. Like
Oh, really?
Yeah, like the editing is great. The acting is great. There are times where, like, have you ever watched Lou Ramsey's "You Were Never Really Hit"?
I don't think so. No.
Oh man, that is so good. The way that treats editing, the violence is perfect because it's such a violent film, but you very rarely see any violence. It's a weird thing to explain.
All right.
And I feel like that could have taken some cues from that. Just like going back to that Sean Bean bit. I just think the moments in there where like the bit where he's got that what is it, like the fire
poker.
Yeah, fire poker. I've not heard that one before. Where he's got that in and he starts twisting it. You don't need to see that in my eyes or in my head. You know what he's doing. The sound design is incredible in that moment. So, and even then, I'm like squirming around in the seat as I'm watching.
Yeah.
And then you see it, and to me, it's like you've shown that purely because you just felt like it should be shown, not for any other particular reason.
Yeah, I feel personally like that sequence kind of like, because when we see Sean Bean later, he's like all this, his face is very much covered in these patches and these scars. I like, the only explanation I can think of it is this kind of like his like facial identity has been kind of
he has his eyeball taken out, doesn't he? Pretty much.
Yeah. I mean that does a lot to a person, doesn't it?
Like, that can traumatize somebody, I'd imagine.
Yeah. I mean, I bet Sean Bean at that point was kind of like, "Oh, just kill me like in all the other movies. I don't."
I was thinking that while I was watching. Like, he gets such a bad rap.
Yeah.
Like his agent must go, "Sean, I've got a film for you. Guess what's going to happen? You're going to get battered and you're going to get killed."
Yeah. Like, which Hollywood producer did he piss off?
But yeah, there's only one film I can think of where he's not died, to be fair.
I mean, that's the second I can think of right off the top of my head. He doesn't die. Spoiler, if you haven't seen the film, he doesn't die in Silent Hill.
Oh, I've not watched Silent Hill.
Yeah, it's well,
when
it comes
to
yeah, sorry. Like when it comes to video game movies, that's probably one of the better ones, but it's not great.
Yeah,
it's okay. It's very okay.
Like most video game films.
Yeah, I mean most of them are just trash. But yeah, like the reason why I ranked Possessor so high is I just love how it carries its theme throughout the film, and how it kind of like really goes with the characters, like struggling with identity dysmorphia, like they live these lives while trying to kind of escape from their other lives, which for Taz is her family, her son and her husband, which is at the same time kind of something she doesn't want to escape from. And then we have Colin, who's had this former life as, dealing drugs and being just a mess of a person. And then, now he's marrying into a very wealthy family while working for his very disgusting father-in-law. And then when these characters kind of transform into one, they are very similar, and they struggle with the very identity that they've been struggling all this time, but now it's amplified because there's two people in one body.
Yeah, I mean that scene towards the end where they're in Tess's like husband, is ex-husband? Never really. I know there's a point where they're separated, but it doesn't.
Yeah, I think his current husband. They just like don't live together.
Yeah, and then that scene where he's struggling, he's towards the end where it goes, right, okay, so does let me speak to Taz, and she pops out of his head for a moment, and they're both holding the gun next to her, next to her husband's head, which to me is like that entire 2 minutes is so dark.
Oh, absolutely.
And like
it's
where she kills the kid as well. That's probably a bit in the film where I was like, you could tone that down slightly.
It's one of the like most harrowing ends for a horror film. I feel I didn't react as strongly to it as I feel I should have. Just I don't really know why exactly. I hope it doesn't say I'm a massive sociopath. But it's certainly like very powerful scene in, you know, we all know this very traditional main character arc where you kind of like you have to let go of something.
And in this one, it's a kid's brain.
Yeah, it's devastating, and it's absolutely unnerving ending for the whole film.
Yeah,
especially when we find out that the kid was actually controlled.
That
by Gerda, who's the character played by Jennifer Jason Leigh, as in Taz's boss, to get her out of the Colin's brain.
Like, if I want to pick holes in the film, which I kind of feel like I'm doing now.
I thought you said you loved the film.
I think it's brilliant. It's just like there are moments when like you could have done less with this, and you would have gotten the exact same result. It doesn't make sense because earlier in the day, the kid's at his dad's home doing whatever, and then next thing you know, the kid is now been taken over by Jennifer Jason Leigh. Like, to me, like, earlier in the film they were saying, oh, okay, well, it takes like a 4-hour process. So how did they get into the kid's house? Like, it's one of those moments where, like, if you don't think about it, it's a good ending. But the moment you go into it, you go, how did you get to that kid so you could put the implant in his head and you could take over him when you moved Dad's house?
Yeah, I mean, I think
Go on, sorry.
Yeah, sorry about that. Like for me, that's pretty much where the movie's strength in not holding the hand comes in, because you don't get the answer, you don't get the scene where the kid is abducted and transplanted into. It's like you feel that gap yourself, and it's not impossible. It's very unlikely.
Yeah.
But for me, it was kind of like, I can see that happening. Like, I can even see, like, the kid being already under the control of Gerda when he first meets Colin. But he's kind of like, well,
how did
I don't have anything on me to kill or anything, so I just had to wait for a later moment. That's how I felt anyway.
Yeah, I mean, like,
but I totally do get your point.
Yeah, like, I do like the film. I mean, that's the fourth time I've watched it. And since it came up,
I only watched it twice. Jesus,
that 4 times in the space of however many months is more than what I consider most films. Like, there's only 2 other films that I've watched more frequently than Possessor.
Yeah, I mean, I watched it the second time within a week. And I never watch the same movie twice in that short amount. I don't think I've ever done that. So yeah, it's
that's where I'm really weird, because there are some films where I've watched probably a dozen times.
Yeah.
But yeah, like for me, 8 out of 10. Like
that's fair enough.
I feel like one of the things that I do love about this film as well, that I've not mentioned, is the presentation. It's so clean.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, just how everything looks. Like, there are obviously scenes where things on the streets look dirty or in a building look dirty, but it's super, super, super high resolution, and everything just looks crisp. Like, that's one of the films, like, it's one of my biggest problems I've got with Cronenberg films, especially in the 80s, where they just look so janky and they sound janky as well. Whereas this one, it kind of feels like a film that David Cronenberg would love, in a way, would have loved to have made, in a way. Where here's all this technology, here's all these resources.
Yeah, I think whereas David Cronenberg, really perfected the format as we know it, Brandon actually managed to perfect the presentation within the format.
Yeah, to me, it's one of the first things you notice how clean, even how the camera moves throughout the film.
Yeah,
is so clean. There's hardly any Steadicam moments. It all feels like it's on rails.
Yeah,
and even then, for me, sorry, go on.
Oh no, go on. I'll tell you afterwards.
Oh, sorry. So, there are some films where I'm not a massive fan of Steadicam shots, but there are moments in films where if it's on rails, it takes me out of it.
All right.
But in this one, for what feels like 90% of the film, it kind of feels like it's on a rail. It works so well.
Yeah, I feel it's because it's kind of consistent. That's the style. It's not. It doesn't jump out when some films kind of you see they're we really wanted this on rail, but there's no space, so we're going to do handheld instead, and then it just doesn't fit the scene.
Oh yeah, I mean even that the scene where he meets his dad for the first time, where Colin meets Ava's dad.
Yeah.
And it intros the scene by a shot of the ceiling. And then it goes down, it goes up and then pans down, shows a painting, and then follows Colin. And it's it's so precise and so smooth. I love that kind of camera work.
Yeah. And speaking of camera work, what is your opinion? I found this very, very interesting, and I don't dislike it in any way. I got a degree in fine arts in moving image and that sort of stuff, so I've been educated very heavily on how you should do certain film shots, and there's the kind of I'm not sure what it's in English, kind of spacing for the eye, for the view
Blocking?
of a person. Not necessarily blocking, but kind of when you got a person on a screen.
Yeah.
And they're kind of looking very slightly to the right.
Oh,
there should be more dead space on the way they're looking. Pardon?
Perspective. Is that what you mean?
I guess so. I haven't heard that term before. But yeah, there should be more space, empty space on the screen where the eyes are pointing towards. But in this film, it's the opposite.
Oh,
Did
yeah.
you notice that?
Yeah, because there are moments where it kind of feels like you're someone watching him, which I love, considering there are moments in this film where there are people definitely watching him. So it kind of feels like, to me, you're sometimes part of the company, or part of the company doing the assassins, and you're just keeping an eye on them.
I didn't even think of it like that. That's really cool.
The moment that kind of shows that for me is, do you know when Sean Bean's giving that speech? Well, he's talking about how he's bored of the people.
Yeah.
And when you're looking at Colin, it's so detached from him.
Yeah.
He's 3 or 4 people in front of him, and he stands out quite clearly. But to me, you're not. Yeah. You're in that crowd and you're watching him.
Yeah. It wasn't he wasn't normal. I see normal directors would probably do a close up on Colin in that point, but they didn't, and I have to say the cinematography by Karim Hussein is phenomenal. It's some of the best I've seen in any film alone, but especially in horror.
Yeah, definitely. There's only one other film that I could think of was this level. Well, no, two other films. Now that I'm saying it, is Hereditary.
Oh, I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, and
absolutely,
and the Lighthouse.
Oh yeah,
Like
I agree.
when it comes to horror, you don't really think of like camera movement and the cinematography, do you? You always think of like the set pieces and the build up. Whereas, especially in like, the last 10 years, cinematography in horror films has gotten so much better.
Absolutely, it's like how the technology has advanced has given horror filmmakers so much more space to actually do what they want to do. And of course, like when we talk about Brandon Cronenberg and David Cronenberg movies, like David's early films, they were like massively low budget.
Oh yeah,
like absolute shoestring. And like I tried to find what the budget for Possessor was, but I just couldn't find it.
I might have
But
I think it's like $1 million. I think. Let me double check.
oh, how much?
1 million, I think.
1 million.
I think
I was
so.
guessing like 4 or 5 million. That's like generally kind of like indie.
To be fair, I
Production
might be talking up my backside here.
Yeah. I mean, the
I'm trying
box
to find
office for Possessor was $907,000.
Right, I'm not
And
wrong, 'cause I'm looking at it now. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't find anything about the budget.
Yeah, exactly. I couldn't find it, and it's like I'm like 99% sure Possessor didn't make back its budget.
Oh no,
But
like,
of course, like even if it wasn't released during a pandemic, this just isn't the kind of movie people go to watch in movies.
I think it would have it made its money back, but I don't think it helped the fact that it was released when the world was on its ass.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that helped any film.
Yeah, absolutely. But you know,
It didn't
at
help
least
Tenet.
it's yeah. But at least, you know, it's been very critically well received. It won several awards. I think it's won like 13 awards or something, with 34 nominations, I think.
Oh well,
So
he won.
it's-
Sorry, I'm reading it here. So he won
Yeah.
Best Feature Length Film, Best Direction at Zeitgeist Film Festival. I'm not sure that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah, so it's very successful film in horror.
Yeah, and to me, that it's hard. I think that's half the reason why we're doing this podcast. Especially in the last 10 years, there have just been some incredible horror films.
Absolutely, it's like we're going through a horror renaissance.
Yeah, definitely. Like I was thinking about this the other day, where it kind of feels like we're in like a new wave horror now.
Yeah, and like I feel it started pretty much around the time of Jordan Peele's Get Out. I think that's when I started to notice it. You know, we got Robert Eggers' Witch around that time. We got Ari Aster's Hereditary a few years later. I think that was a few years later.
Yeah, but not much time to put between the two.
Yeah, and you know, those are like three of some of the like biggest names in horror at the moment.
Oh, definitely.
And-
Like in the last 10 years, you've had The Babadook, you've had Hereditary, you've had The Witch, you've had Raw, you've had The Conjuring, which is somehow that's just somehow
Yes.
brought life into a genre that was pretty much on its arse. Like those
Oh yeah.
jump scare horrors were just nowhere at that time. Then that came out, really brought life into it.
Yeah, I feel the problem very much was with the early noughties, or like, well, noughties in general, horror, was that the projects were kind of handed over to people who didn't write the movies, who weren't like, you look at Final Destination and Wrong Turns and all these, not saying the directors weren't competent. There were a lot of directors who kind of like, they started out as editors in those films, or screenwriters in earlier films, I think. But that's also part of the problem. They were working on sequels.
Oh yeah,
I'm so glad that sequel trend has seemed to die down after, what was it, started in early 80s pretty much, with Friday the 13th and Jaws. And it's finally kind of like died down a little bit. It's, oh my god,
and
so
then
happy
he tried
about
to
that.
reboot it, and everyone went,
Oh yeah.
no, this
It's like Platinum Dunes trying to reboot all these horror franchises, and I just, Michael Bay, of course, behind Platinum Dunes, and as people who may know me know, I can't stand his way of filmmaking. So when he tried to remake or reboot Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th,
Was it Michael Bay who directed that?
He didn't direct those, but
I was
Platinum
going to
Dunes.
say.
Yeah. Oh, where were the explosions? The naked women.
I think the original.
But yeah, he's
had those. Just minus explosion.
But yeah, he's Michael Bay's founder of Platinum Dunes, which of course remade those, and I think they also remade Texas Chainsaw Massacre for the however many at time.
Oh right, okay.
In the 2010s, I think it was 2010s. I'm not sure, but yeah, it's really good to be kind of living through this new era of horror.
Yeah, I mean, there was a film recently that I've not watched, and this might be one that we can go in blind on at some point. Is there called Synchronic?
Oh, I've heard about that.
Yeah, that.
Don't know anything about it though.
Neither do I. I've tried reading stuff on it, and people go, "It's really hard to explain." Watch the film. It's very good. That's apparently amazing. There's a film called Relic.
Oh yeah, I should watch that as well.
Yeah, I've not watched that either. But yeah, there's Saint Maud came out last year.
Oh. I think I watched that movie solely because you recommended it.
The amount of people I've told to watch that film, and I think you might be the only person to have come back and gone, yeah, it's really good. Everyone else has gone, it's pretty shit.
It's the problem with this, because of course we are two very much horror lovers in more ways than one. And these movies, like I said, they don't hold your hand, and it's the best kind of horror in my opinion. It's the best kind of sci-fi, best kind of fantasy, when you kind of get to fill in all the blanks, because I feel that's where the horror lies. It's in the dark space between the facts that you are given.
Yeah, and one thing that I love that this film does as well, and David Cronenberg had a huge problem with this as well, where it introduces something like a new, some random technology that's been invented in this film. Doesn't give it a stupid name. Doesn't even give it a name. It just shows you what it is and does what it was. Whereas in David Cronenberg's film, that little machine that Taz puts on, that puts in the body of someone else, would have been called something ridiculous. And there's nothing like that in this. It's a sci-fi film where it just goes, hey, here's all this stuff in this film.
Yeah.
Doesn't explain it, doesn't tell you what it is, doesn't tell you what it does, it just shows you. And that to me is perfect.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. You really feel the characters are saying what they would say to each other, knowing what they actually know. So it's not like the characters, oh, well, it's time to go assassinate this new subject with this brand new technology that we got in this alternate 2008 year. And it's so much better. That's why I think the characters and the dialogue feel so realistic in this film, because there is not that exposition that we've come to expect.
Definitely. One question I've got for you though. So the company that Sean Bean owns is called Zufra.
Yeah.
What do you think that company is?
Data mining.
Well, now you said that, it seems so obvious. I was literally watching it today thinking, I have no idea what this company is. What is it? It's just people wearing VR headsets and watching people have sex on a computer screen.
Now that I think of it, they probably don't mention it at all in the movie. But yeah, I think it's mentioned more in the interviews and in the behind the scenes materials that it's a data mining company.
Oh, okay. So they've actually given it an answer. Then.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
fair enough.
And it's like something you don't, when you watch it for the first time, you don't know it. You're kind of like, what is this? They just like on computer picking pictures and like, what this makes no sense.
Like describing people's curtains.
Yeah, but like when you actually know it's data mining, you look at it, they're like choosing, they're telling, okay, Colin, you're in today, your job today is curtains. And it's like, he goes to every webcam, okay, no curtains, next one, okay, they're curtains. They are Venetian? Something like that. Curtains, they're white, they are wide. Next curtains, okay, black, blinding curtains. Next one, so on. So you realise they're actually collecting the data and not just watching people shag. Which I think is very funny, because when it comes to that point where Colin is just like seeing people having sex, he's kind of like stunned, he doesn't do anything. Then like this, what's the word? Executive voice comes to his ear. Like, Colin, why are you not doing anything? He was like, oh.
Like, nope, I'm definitely working here, sorry.
Yeah, there's like a little bit of... I love it when there's like a little bit of those kind of very small humour moments in this kind of movies. Of course, some have more humour, but it definitely helps to lighten up the tense moods.
So you're giving it a 10?
Yeah. So I guess
well,
that makes it like very easy, kind of like middle ground. It's a 9. 9 for us.
So Daymares, giving it a 9.
Yeah.
There you go then.
Would assassinate. 9 out of 10.
Would assassinate.
Yeah.
To be fair, I think now that I'm actually saying it, 9 out of 10 does sound about right, I think.
Yeah. I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
So, I reckon that brings us to the end of the very first, very original Daymares podcast about the Possessor.
Yeah.
The only problem we need to discuss here is we were very professional. We didn't really actually discuss how we're going to finish the first recording. But expect more to come. We don't really know the schedule yet.
No,
I
think it'd be a case of we'll just find our footing first.
Yeah.
And then at some point we'll go, this is this.
Yeah. And, if anyone listening who doesn't really know me and Adam, or me or Adam, absolutely feel free to follow us. We're both on Twitter. I'm just going to check what my Twitter handle is, because I can never remember. I'm at Stroya, so that's Stroija.
And mine's Adam CR95, but I've locked my account, so whether you follow me or not will be up to me. Whether you
yeah, we probably will. Depends if it happens before this comes out. We're probably gonna try and make a Twitter account for Daymares.
Yeah.
But, you can try search. I mean, I guess the Twitter handle would be Daymares Podcast.
If it's
but
available.
It might be... Yeah, if it's not available, it might be... I'm checking. Daymares Podcast. Is there any... If we find out now there's a podcast already called Daymares, we're going to be livid. Well, it doesn't find anything, so it might be Daymares Podcast. It may not exist when you hear this. So... Yeah, watch this space. Which space? We don't know.
Yeah, we'll sort it all out, and then we'll just make something official at some point.
Yeah. And we'll let you know in the next one how it's all going, if there's places to follow us. And thank you for listening.
Yeah, first one. Probably a bit ropey.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll get more professional.
I mean, hopefully is a strong word. But... Thank you very much, and don't let Freddy bite you.
Is that the outro?
Yes.
Don't let Freddy bite you. Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Right, shall we stop recording?